Goody boy.
Hello. Good afternoon. Still zoomed in a bit from yesterday, so we'll go ahead and pull back a little bit, and I have been trying to get a little bit better about having the pencil work laid down before I go ahead and get into the stream, and today's case was I wasn't quite there. So I do have a start. It looks like adjusting this light. This is my new desk light mount, and the light that came with it. It's able to switch from warm to cool light, and I feel like the warm light is significantly brighter, which irks the crap out of me because I do prefer cooler light as far as when I'm painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can just switch this back over to the cool mode. I turned it off now. And now the light doesn't want to turn on. Alright. We're off to a great start. Wow, it's seriously not starting back up. Hope I didn't burn this thing out. There it goes. Alright. So yeah, I go ahead and you can see when I'm pushing the button here. Like, I don't know if maybe the power cord is just the teeniest bit, like, not seated or something. But yeah, me and this light have been fighting each other the whole time I've had it so far. I haven't quite figured out if it's, I don't know, maybe hardware failure. Sometimes I was thinking, like, okay, there's this teeny little sensor, and maybe that's checks to see if there's like motion every so often to go ahead and dim down, but then it just randomly flickers when I'm trying to touch the button to go ahead and increase the brightness. So I'm like, I don't know, I haven't figured out your pattern yet. Currently I do have the curtain out of the way because I did turn up my my air conditioner yesterday. We've had some wacky weather here where I'm around. And the past 2 days, it's been pretty consistently like towards like 70s, 80s. But last week we had freezing weather. So, like I said, wacky weather. Yesterday we painted our flamingo. I think I am going to turn this playlist down just the tiniest little touch, because I feel like it's fun for today's theme. I didn't go too spooky with it. This is a Halloween themed. No apologies, I'm trying to turn this down very gently without going ahead and just obliterating the volume and having it jump ridiculously. I prefer not to have the volume levels jump. But I did get started on the Jabberwock, which, getting my phone out of the way and trying to move my beverage a bit because we're so close to this edge. So I'm moving it over to a bit of the desk that I'd cleared. And we'll move this. Let's see, I'll probably need to push my light back just a touch to go ahead and move up. I don't want this too far where it's just leaning off the edge of the desk, and I'm not going to be able to draw or paint comfortably. But there we go. This is quite crooked today. Must have happened when I put the battery back in. Alright, so we have our Jabberwock, just very general gesture type forms right now. Basically the shoulders, the forearms, I have those as just sticks for lines. And then I have the wings blocked in a little bit better because I want to have an idea as far as like the silhouette, because to me the Jabberwock screams powerful creature. I think I'll go ahead and bump up my ISO to go ahead and accommodate this light thing going on because of my shoulder kind of casting a shadow. But I'm really trying to work with this light. I don't know if it's me or if it's hardware. And once I figure that out, I can move towards a solution. So I've been trying to work with the light a bit more often to go ahead and tolerate it while I've been enjoying the new desk mount. And I think I'm going to try a manufacturer replacement just because it is so touchy. It shouldn't be jumping to do things when my fingers are just near the buttons. That's got to be hardware. That's beyond just me. I'm generally pretty good with tech. I come from more than 4.5 years doing tech as far as troubleshooting. So at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm past the learning curve, and it's the device. But that's neither here or there. Let's get on with this Jabberwock. I really was excited to get to working on this guy. So, as usual, if you're going to be popping your hand onto the edge of the paper, it is definitely recommended to go ahead and put a paper towel or even a sheet of paper underneath, just that way you're not transferring any oils or anything else onto the paper surface, especially doing watercolors. I would recommend it for pretty much all dry media anyway, because you'll have things like graphite. It might stick differently to parts that have been affected by hand oils as opposed to like charcoal. Same thing. It's just, you can affect the paper surface that can go ahead and affect the longevity of your paper as well. So I try to keep clean hands and also not touch the work in just general practice. I'm actually sticking really close to the source material for the Jabberwock because it was just an iconic character growing up, and I would see the picture of him and he's ugly, he's freaky, he looks dangerous, and that's ideal for who the character is. I was debating bringing up the poem to read it since the work is clearly in public domain. I think it's universally in public domain. Like, there's no country where it's exempt because of how long ago it was. After seeing yesterday, it was like 1856. I already closed the tab. I'm terrible at remembering a lot of numbers, especially when I've been reading a lot of science articles on top of it. So it's just like, yeah, that data is obliterated in my brain. I'm lucky to remember it's 1850 something. Alright, so the poem does specify that the Jabberwock, has claws and the claws that catch, and that it has fiery eyes, which is funny. The fiery eyes, I've actually, looking at other artists like colorized versions of this work, I don't really see that coming through. It's like, did you read the poem? Like, it's awesome to see other interpretations, but I feel like that's an integral part of the character. They go ahead and cast everything in these really, really cool tones, and it's like, okay, that's a perfect opportunity to pop in these flame eyes, and that's going to really draw you into this like dark and cool silhouette that most people do for a portrayal of them. So I may be just ranting a bit. Alright, so I have a general idea where I'm thinking to have his head, just kind of like leaning out a little bit. I need to connect this, it'll be foreshortened a bit from this angle that we're seeing, as far as for his neck, and just in general trying to get a good head shape. I'm kind of alternating between the original and some of the more modern portrayals. There's so much gorgeous texture on the Jabberwock. It's just kind of a shame for me to having him so far back in this composition, because you're really not going to see all of that going on. Alright, and in all of my rambling, I'm noticing this is not picking up detail at all. Hopefully my autofocus will behave. I'm playing with my autofocus right here, so I'm trying to... Oh, it's behaving much better. Okay. Good, good. Alright. It's just funny tapping on the screen and just watching this little square. It's like, are you going to stay where I want you? Because I feel like, you know, it's not as much fun if all you guys are seeing is you know, this blur every time I'm trying to work on this. You know, I'm having that come up just a touch before that's gonna settle down. I think that works. So that would come up and then down here. The torso body is. And I want this hand up. So this one would have big vicious claws. Going to very gently add some knuckles in here. I want to make sure that this looks like these claws are very articulate. And I know this is a subtle detail that you really wouldn't see at the distance that we're at from it, but again, stickers. Alright, so here we're going to see kind of the thumb coming off. Kind of doing the cartoon thing, I'm realizing that you know, 4 instead of 5 for the claws. Just doing these little dots here to help me with the placement of the knuckles. Alright, and then what I'm going to do, this is at least a plan for the moment, is to go ahead and try to give this some pretty ample lighting here in the front, and the rest of the body's going to kind of shrink away into shadow. Adding a little bit of like an implied muscle structure, so like the top ball of the arms is a bit more muscular. I don't have muscle groups memorized. I really need to brush up on my anatomy. I have a copy of Grey's Anatomy here, I just haven't dug it out in a bit. feel like where the power's in the shoulders and that the forearms are a little bit more skinny and drawn out, and making them look a little bit more alien. Just very gently trying to adjust that elbow. Checking to see if the autofocus is still with us. Alright, so for the moment I'm focusing a little more on the pencil work just because he is so detailed and I want to just really knock that out as quickly as possible. That way we can go ahead and take a look for comments. You're welcome to go ahead and comment, ask questions, anything as far as color palette and things like that while I'm getting this last little bit put in. And I'll go ahead and just leave that up since we're not even working on this side of the paper. We're over here, so I don't think that'll be too distracting while I'm getting a little bit more detail blocked in. Trying to picture the top of the shoulders. I don't do a lot of creatures from like a top view, so I have that kind of blocked in as far as like basically turning the torso into a giant rectangle, which isn't accurate anatomically, but it's helping me just visualize the blocky shape. And then we'll go ahead and have the rest of the body kind of slinking away back here. And then I would give a like a pectoral muscles as far as some general idea. I'm feeling like this wing is a little bit more awkward than I intended, like where it is at in relation to the head. I think I'm going to redo this wing. I like the shape of it, but I feel like it would be a little bit lower to go ahead and give the Jabberwock a better silhouette. Yeah, so going ahead and drawing this out. I'm trying to keep it kind of rooted into the shoulder here where it would attach to the body, or at least behind the shoulders. Probably like between the shoulder blades there would be like a different structure where the shoulder blade itself would be modified. Apologies, I'm trying to just blow this one little hair off because I don't really want to have that leave for the pencil work. So I think I can maybe tilt this one a little bit closer to the tower. Have it leaning down. And then bring it up. Which is probably so close to the same angle that it just was, but I mean, you're only going to get it to be different by so much if you're sticking with where this wing could be coming out of. I think I can angle that out a little further. Yeah, I think that works better. Alright, so slight adjustment. And if I were just sketching, I wouldn't mind the extra lines here. But because this is going to be painted with watercolor, a lot of times I do like to work pretty clean, and once I'm pretty sure of posture, I like to go ahead and get rid of those extra lines pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and give just a subtle indication of where the pecs are for the chest. And then I'm pretty much going to have the rest of the body just cast in shadow. So from here, I'm going to just do kind of like a line for the spine along this way. I have an idea. Just have the body just generally follow that. And I'm going to do a quick peek onto Twitch, and then I'm going to solidify the back of the body a bit. Just I feel like maybe you would catch like a glimpse of like one of the legs from behind the outstretched claw. So just doing a quick jump over to Twitch, saying hi. Right. And popping back over here to our Jabberwock, since there's nothing going on in the chat stream right this moment. And we're going to block in. I figure you catch a glimpse of just like one knee over here. And we'll curve this just ever so slightly. And maybe another one over here. This section will just be in shadow. And then we have the tail for balance. I'm just kind of running across there. I think our tail would be coming out this way. We're going to have the tail be potentially excessively long. I feel like visually, for the whole composition, that's going to be better for the tail to come along here, wrap back around here, and point downward. So like the wings and the tail, everything is forcing you back downward. I think it's good composition for the Jabberwock himself, as well as because he's up here on the edge. Generally with a composition, you're going to want to lead the eye back into the piece so your eye wanders around and it makes it more interesting. I didn't follow that very much with the left side of Wonderland here. I feel like between this and the checkerboard, I feel like the right side's probably going to be a little bit more, a little stronger visually. I'm doing just a general idea as far as where the ribs are in the wing, because I pictured that there would be slight distortion, even though from how I see the Jabberwock, he's pretty well armored, but that you would get variations of, because there's bone structure there, it will affect lighting just the tiniest bit, and I'm already knocking that back a little bit. The Jabberwock's probably going to be painted pretty dark. It's just how I've always pictured him. Okay, so have this swing out just a touch. Just make sure that feels complete. I'm leaving it so the tail is pretty thick here. And coming down. It's interesting. I have not seen anyone adding barbs to the tail of the Jabberwock. I wonder if that was an attempt to make it seem... I don't know. For me, that just adds this subtle level of danger to a creature. Just... Go ahead and bring this to the humor side. I don't want to sit on my tail if I had this tail. Not be a fun day. There we go. Give me just a moment. You good, Tess? Okay, hon. And apologies, I didn't mute there. It's just... Anyway, coughing, choking. Definitely need to stop and check. Alright, so... Seeing the ISO, it is kind of blowing out this corner a bit, so I'll go ahead and go a little bit darker. And we'll see... Just see if the autofocus is still behaving. Okay, good. I feel like if I don't do that check once in a while, you guys just see like me working on the blurs. Like, okay, cool. I'd like to see what you're doing, but I guess not. I'm gonna go ahead and add like a just implied spines on the tips of the wings, so that way they're not just used for movement, but they are in fact a part of the creature that's been armored. It's just a creature that is bred for destruction. It is funny looking at the Tenniel illustration and noticing that he's wearing a vest. That's just wild. Alright, so I'm rambling enough. We're almost hitting the half-hour point, and I don't have this face blocked in. We need to have a face so we can get painting. So now I can come in and get rid of that visual rectangle that I had mentioned earlier. Oh, we also want to get that line off of the neck. Basically anything that was implying form that wasn't already part of the creature. And just adjusting this line into the neck, because that area would generally be a little bit muscular, having to handle such a long neck. We really saw that with the flamingo yesterday too. Alright, and you know, I've always felt like creatures like dragons have been really tough for me drawing wise. It's just I look at amazing examples like John Howe, and it's like, how did you do that? And I understand more about anatomy than I used to, and using other like real life creatures for references. So maybe that's something that I should try revisiting. Just having more knowledge now. Doing these bulbous eyes. You know, with the antenna here, it looks almost like Zim if the head were wider. I am such a nerd. I need to adjust that eye shape. That he looks like he's, I don't know, stoned or bemused. It's like, no, you're violent. Oh, and this light wants to test me today. I need to lighten this up so I can see the details that I'm trying to put in, and hopefully the light being over here twitching isn't too bothersome.
I'm gonna tell you something fun. Booga. I'm going somewhere.
I feel like the mouth isn't large enough. Which is crazy because it's like half of his face. I feel like this is going to test my attention to detail. Like, none of the other pieces have, like, they're just that much extra level. Alright, so... I think I'm in a good spot to start applying some color. And just getting over here. Bring the camera in a bit. Hopefully we can maintain pretty good visuals. I'm going to go with the Sterling, the Silver Sterling Studio round 1. This is the 6000S. Notice that I haven't been saying 6000S. And the autofocus does not want to work. Alright, let's... I don't know if that detail's picking up with where my lights are. So, we're gonna move on. Alright, so hopefully he seems terrifying. You'll have to let me know in the comments. Do you think our Jabberwock looks at least somewhat creepy? Alright, so I think I'm going to stick with some of the cool aspects that I had mentioned earlier. It sounds nuts, but I want to start off with some of these fiery eyes. I'm kind of in a minor argument of, do I want to go with the Pyrrole Crimson? Which is such a nice dark. It is one of my favorites. I also want to keep it light enough for conveying fire, which is why I'm not going into the Pyrrole Maroon. I'm not Pyrrole Maroon, Purely Maroon. Wow. This current track sounds like something out of Mars Attacks. I am kind of feeling the Deep Scarlet. It actually reminds me of a color combination that was on my old, random older palettes. I put together the colors and never painted anything with them. It's just one of those, like, I don't know, I guess if I were a dragon, that would be my horde, is like putting colors together and just watching them sing, and hadn't even gotten that far. But but the color combination, which I actually put dots on this palette the last time I was topping off my palette, was Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet, which I found that I like the Deep Scarlet more than the Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet. So I'm just dotting those on here. Should show you guys, see if maybe you're interested. Now I'm getting some paint on my my mount here. Just trying to tap the autofocus. So anyways, trying to get a touch more pigment. This middle one is Mayan Blue by Daniel Smith. It is not the most light fast color from what I've read online. You know, different people doing light fast tests. But the combination of the orangey red deep tones for the Quinacridone Burnt Scarlet, the Mayan Blue, and then this Bloodstone. Like, Bloodstone itself is just amazing. It's this slightly violet leaning, granulating color, and now I've just kind of slopped on some water. You can kind of see some of the granulation and the separation going. If I hadn't gone a little too dark with the wash. We'll just grab a little bit of that out. But there you go. There's just something magical to me about the combination of that red blue and violet tone. It's just, I love it. I really need to paint something with it, but I'm not using it for this, because like I said, once this dries down, this becomes significantly duller. It's something about the shift in tone from when it's wet to when it's dry. I don't love that color as much as I used to, because the Deep Scarlet maintains a little bit more of that brightness while still being a muted tone. But just letting you know, headspace, like, you know, if I add a little bit of oh geez, I had done a test on that. I forget what color mix that was. I actually did a really good... I was trying to find a replacement for it without mixing too many things. Like I said, I'm a little bit lazy about mixing. And actually, I'm going to pull that up. I should have the color sheet under my desk. I tend to toss a lot of my color sheets right there. So I'm here. I'm just going to mute for a second while I go ahead and try to pull that up and let you guys see what I'm thinking for the some of these cool tones on the Jabberwock. Tess, hun, you're getting awfully loud. Alright, so we have the cobalt teal blue. Like I said, I have this in a watercolor stick. You can get, I think it was like the equivalent of like 3 full pans out of 1 watercolor stick. So the price of a stick compared to a tube of paint, the 15 milliliter tubes, a really, really good value. So if you're trying to diversify colors right off the bat, I do recommend it. And in fact, I don't know if you were here. Hopefully you were here. You know, if you're new, great. Thank you so much for joining along. But if you've been here for a bit, you'll know my crazy palette where I've gone ahead and all the colors in the half pans are. I've done 2 colors in all of them, except for the one with the sticks. I was able to slice off parts of 3 different sticks. I'm trying to tilt that so you get some light. The color variation isn't picking up very well, but I have my rich green gold, my sap green, and the cobalt teal blue. So they happily squish together. So I've gone ahead and blotted off the belly of my brush here, so I don't have too much going on with that mix. I want it to be fairly dry, so hopefully I can put down more than 1 layer. Just bump my ISO back up to the 3200, which is insane. This light should be more than enough at my desk, but I don't know. I just don't get it. But yeah, so I'm going to hit some of the strongest points of light. I think these forearms would have a decent bit. Kind of seeing this as really gray and cloudy skies above. What happens when you try to say 2 words at once? So this doesn't make any sense. I don't really have light in the foreground. I'll have that back a little bit further. I can go back in and glaze more if need be. Just very gently going over these claws. I probably won't go back over these with the Payne's Gray unless I feel like some shading is really necessary. Just because I'm going over kind of heavy graphite here. And in this case, I don't mind that at all. I knew that, in general, to me at least, the Jabberwock is such a dark creature. I mean, if I were casting like an animated version of the Jabberwock, it'd probably be like Tim Curry. It's just magnificent. And such a deep voice. I'm just thinking of is it Hexus from Fern Gully? Alright, I've added a little bit, too much water, and then dropped my brush.
You're going down. Wait, are you going out?
Not much better.
Out? Try to aim for next door. Try to find my house. So that's over.
Actually doing a little bit more of the wing. Figuring I'll go in and do a bit of shading on that after with the glaze of the Payne's gray.
Wait, what that gives you out?
Just want to give myself plenty of canvas for this color. Right, and then go in and add just a touch around the face. We have this light coming down, little ridges here, touch along the neck. And then I do want to highlight just a bit of the chest. The rest is going to be shrinking off into silhouette. Right, and then just to give you guys an update on that swatch as it's dried down a little bit. Whoop. Let's see how similar where the bulk of the cobalt teal blue was, and how similar that is to the Mayan blue. So they're fairly close. They don't act the same. The Mayan blue is so difficult to re-wet. It tends to harden up in your palette like a stone. I actually have, like I said, that little bit that I squeezed out, and it basically just rattles around my palette like a pebble. And that's because, because it was only a drop, I didn't go ahead and do any additives. If you want to avoid that effect of the Mayan Mayan blue, well, if you don't want the Mayan blue to be acting like that, what you can do if you're squeezing it out into a pan is add some glycerin or honey and stir that in. That's going to improve your working qualities because the honey and glycerin act as a humectant, which means that it's adding humidity and moisture to the mixture, and that'll help you with re-wetting a lot. I can see it from here. I don't know if I have that palette sitting out. I do have that palette sitting out where it's not chaos to get to it. Ooh, but we are incredibly behind on time, so I'm going to leave that alone. If you want to see my palette as far as the original palette that I have the Mayan blue on, I can show that to you in a future stream. Maybe I'll do that as a after Wonderland theme. I haven't decided what I'm doing after this challenge is over. Great, so we're going pretty deep with the with shadow right here by the face. Just a little bit of a negative painting technique. This will help push the face further into the foreground. I actually want to go just a touch deeper there. I don't want to be doing too many washes if I don't need to. right now I'm just kind of sketching in the line work. I'm probably going to adjust a good bit of this off camera between now and the end of the challenge. Just because, as usual, given a lot of ideas to form, but I tend to spend a lot more time with in regards to color consideration. I feel like this song is all but copyright infringement for the Beetlejuice theme. There's so many similar elements. Might go back and glaze a little bit more cobalt teal blue into this. Just not sure where that'll lead me at the moment. A whole lot of pretend. I think for the shadows of the castle, while I'm getting this bit of detail painted in, I think what I'm going to do is lean the stonework a little bit more of a warm gray to add some contrast there. I'm trying to thicken up this tail a little bit. This to be a good silhouette. Right, and back to the face. At the moment, I'm going to keep the Jabberwocky Jabberwock, fairly monochromatic. I feel like I'm going to come in and add some accent colors later on as he as I kind of feel out more detail as far as his form. And oh geez, this autofocus, man, the bane of my existence today. Well, I don't know if it's that or the light. They seem to be in pretty good competition with each other right now. Going in and darkening this. I feel like this would be like a rigid bone and muscle structure, and then there would be behind it like some more actual surface area for wings for flying. It's just you wouldn't be able to see that from this view. Which is why this one's gone a little bit wider, like as if it's turned down a little bit further since it's spread out. That's why you see this area up here. At least I hope that makes sense visually. I feel like I need to break out some even smaller brushes for this. I do have some miniature brushes. Just the teeniest detail brushes. Alright, so hopefully this dries down enough where I'm putting in detail between the claws, and then I'm not losing the detail of the claws themselves. I probably should have lightened that up. I wasn't thinking about creating the contrast between what would be within the light and what would be a little bit more silhouetted. And that is an important consideration to keep in mind. I'm going to let that dry down. I'm not going to touch it. Probably have the castle quite dark too, but like I said, I'm going to use a warmer shade to help contrast that. Dry brushing on his head. I'm going to really push the eyelids here. Just a very ferocious look. And I'm going to slightly switch gears, going a little bit warm for the shadow in the mouth. I know it has the risk of looking out of place. I'm going to be very gentle and make sure I'm putting in a good bit of detail. That should contrast pretty well. Might go in and do further green tones and purples for the Jabberwock. I'm still kind of feeling that part out. I'm going to go ahead and pop in these fiery eyes. We're gonna go in there with deep scarlet around the edges. I'll worry about the lower eyelids later. It's got some chance to dry a bit. I'm gonna bring the zoom in a little bit more if everything is willing to cooperate. I don't have a whole lot of contrast going on the face. That form really is kind of a silly idea for me to try to do this all in one sitting, especially since I didn't have him penciled out already. I feel like there's so much more detail I need to do on him. But he's looking good. He's definitely looking good, and we're in a fairly good spot, I think, to go ahead and leave that off for now. Actually, I'm gonna do a little more contrast on the face. If you're willing to hang out with me, I'm glad to have you stick around a little bit. Wow. I can speak English today. So this is fairly deep in value, but a bit watery. So I'm also just giving the belly of the brush a quick blot. And taking a look here, make sure the autofocus is behaving, and it is not. I want it to go ahead and push a little bit more contrast, in the very least, between his head and his neck. The same goes on this side too, where this wing is, to help cool that off and push that further into the background. We should have that angling down, that would give a little bit more definition over here. It would probably help if I had some of the background put in. I'm going to leave that there. I just turned it just ever so slightly more. And I think that's a good start for a Jabberwock, but I am definitely not stopping there. We're going to get some more detail on him. Probably off camera, but possibly on camera depending on where we're at with other prompts. So if some of the other prompts go a little bit faster, you know, I go ahead and hop over to other characters and just pop in a little bit more detail. I'm going to try getting in a little more of that. I feel like I need to be right on top of this to get that detail though, so I'll probably add a little bit more silhouette for these claws off camera. Silhouette behind the claws off camera, so way those stand out a little bit better. Find good bit of contrast is great at just pushing that depth and adding realism. A lot of times what's wrong with your work, if you're looking at it and it's not right, and you probably didn't push those levels of contrast far enough. Whether that is you know, making your darks a little bit darker, your lights a little bit lighter. Generally it's one or the other, and when you're starting early on, I've definitely seen a tendency to do less contrast, like not going as deep with the dark shadows as you should. Oh, there's so many fun details I really want to get into on this guy. I'm just out of time for today. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get more of that done at a later point. And this track is absolutely distracting for this last little bit here, trying to sign off. So let's see if maybe the next track is gentler. There we go. That's a lot better. I can actually hear myself talk over it. So, it's been another fun day painting with you, and I'm so glad that you joined me. Let's go ahead and check out our list to see what's up with tomorrow.
That Ronald came back to life, so Ronald's like, what are you doing? So,
And apologies, it's taking me just a moment to get back to my list. Alright, and tomorrow is book. Book is absolutely perfect for tomorrow because you see my book is rather tiny. It's one of the books that's down in the rabbit hole. So we'll have time between some basic layers over there and jumping back over to the Jabberwock. So if you want to see more going on with the Jabberwock, join me tomorrow. We're going to get in some more detail. I'll probably do the silhouette area behind this claw here off camera, just because I'm barely seeing the contrast right now with how I have the camera set up. I really need to be closer to it. But other than that, yeah, we're going to work on the book, and we're going to also go really heavy with the Jabberwock and get some of these details in. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And it's been fun and exciting. I'm looking forward to tomorrow, and always keep painting.